there's a lot of problems with why the NBA has kind of gone down the wayside. But hey, things looking pretty good in the NHL. Things are looking good out on the ice, and the first little bit of the season is now done. We're at the Christmas holiday break, Johnny, and I want to get your thoughts. You look at the team, the Maple Leafs at the holiday break, and they're 21-12-2, which is a pretty good record. But I know as well as you do, because I know you look into the analytics, you look at the numbers. Overall, how do you feel the Leafs have played in the first 34 games of the season?
So you can't separate the conversation, but I think what you're trying to do is separate the goaltenders from the conversation, which you can't really do. They're part of the team. They're part of the success, and they have been exceptional, incredibly good. So that's been, A+++. As far as the team defensively, they're good. They're kind of a top 7-8 team defensively as far as high danger chances. The stuff they give up in the rush chances against. They've really made huge strides in that. Where I think the concern is the balance between the defensive focus and the offensive creativity. They've struggled to find it. Even the last week, where they won a couple games, they didn't feel like they really were playing well. They maybe tilted too much back to the offense, and the defense went by the wayside. They're trying to find that right mix. And so much of that, AB, hate to put on one guy, but you give me a healthy, completely healthy Austin Matthews, 100% healthy, and watch what he would do to a team that is structured with good goaltending and good players playing well. Willie's been amazing. Mitch has been amazing. JT's been amazing. And put the best player, one of the top 5 players in the world, on the team, and watch what their 5-on-5 offense looks like. I think that alone would swing it largely in a big way. I mean, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. The decline in goals for per game by the Leafs is largely attributed to Austin Matthews' decline in his individual goals per game. So that, I think, is the biggest question mark. I think the Leafs would generally be happy given what they faced, given the fact that Austin hasn't really been healthy. They'd be happy with where they're at. But the bigger question becomes, will he ever be healthy this year? I have no idea what the answer is. I mean, he took a lot of time off. He didn't get healthy. He went to Germany. He didn't get healthy. He took a cross-check, which, albeit hard, would not usually knock a guy out of the lineup. It's just part of playing hockey. And he took some time off for it, understandably. If he can't get healthy, the outlook for this team in the postseason and a long, deep run changes drastically compared to if somehow he gets back to the way he was playing last year.
Well, that's the curious thing to me, MJ, is the whole injury management here. When you think about the fact that he spends most of the month of November out of the lineup, we find out he's gone off to Munich to seek the elusive fountain of youth that seems to reside in Munich, whatever it may be, some extract of some animal blood that we don't even want to know about, and I'm sure that the NHL would rather not know either. And yet he comes back for 11 games. He's got 3 goals in his first 3 games back. Then he gets 3 goals in his next 8. And suddenly he's back out of the lineup, not looking anywhere near like the world-class player that we know he can be. Do you wonder why they brought him back? When you, in retrospect, it's in hindsight, it's 2020. But do you wonder why they brought him back for those 11 games if it just wasn't going to be the guy that they need him to be?
100%. But I go further than that, Seth. I mean, why would he start the season? If he was not healthy, why would he even bother playing? And I wonder if the Leafs genuinely, because their behavior suggests they did, if they genuinely believed that he would be able to improve while playing, they knew that this was something that was bothering him since the summer. So if he came into camp and he wasn't quite right, and, it's his first year as the captain and new coach, I get why he would want to play, and I get why they would want him in the lineup. But I wonder if they just believed he'd be able to get healthy, and he wasn't able to. And then when he came back from Germany, they probably believed again he will be able to get healthy, and he wasn't able to. And so now, to me, it's if I was running the Leafs, I would not, without knowing what's wrong with him, I have no idea. But if it is something that is able to be healed with time, I don't know if I'd see Austin Matthews again until the playoffs. I would just whatever. You need 3 months? Then take the 3 months, because it's more important for you to get healthy than it is for the extra 6 or 8 points you might give us over the course of the season.
A little Mark Stone action? Is that what you're saying here, Johnny? A little Marky Stone?
Think of all the money. I haven't even thought about the $14 million you could go spend on someone else. absolutely think about loading up the forwards with that group if you were able to to save the money. But I'm not going down the road. But just
No.
I'm with you. If he's not healthy and he can't stay healthy while playing, then let him get healthy while not playing. And the only concern is if it's something, whatever it is, that won't get healthy by April. I don't know, but given how long it's taken, it's sort of a question that you have to ask.
Well, let's think a little bit positively moving forward here when it comes to the Maple Leafs, because although, yes, that's been a bit of a negative storyline throughout the last couple of days here specifically, a really good storyline this season that I feel like's been, I don't know, underappreciated has been John Tavares in the season that he's been having. 17 goals. He's on pace for a point per game, 34 and 34. And, I mean, he's 34 years old. Like, how much is he really exceeding expectations for you at this point on year 7 of that deal?
Well, that's just it, right? Because the conversation was sort of by everyone. He's amazing, he's amazing, he's amazing. Year 6 and 7, he probably won't be quite as good. And that was okay. You're willing to accept that risk. And here he is. Last year he wasn't as productive by his standards at 5-on-5 specifically. But this year he's been dynamite. I mean, if you can get 30 goals and somewhere north of 70 points from John Tavares while playing, second-line center and on the power play, that is found money. I don't care about the contract anymore. That is absolutely wildly exceeding expectations for him and for the Leafs. So good on him. I mean, he is a professional. He is committed to trying to stay good and relevant, and he works on his skating and he works on his stride. Like, he works on his craft, and he's been great. I mean, that record he set yesterday, that's the 5th guy in NHL history to score 200 goals with 2 different franchises. Gretz and Mess and Lanny McDonald and Keith Tkachuk and John Tavares is 28 goals short of 500. Like, you start looking at his resume.
Yeah.
He's not far off from being a Hall of Famer. He's not. Like, if he plays 4 more years, let's say, and gets 200 more points, he's going to be up by 1,300. He's going to have close to 600 goals. He may, whether he wins the cup or not, his international resume is loaded. I don't know. Yeah, he's been amazing. He's been a real positive story for them. There's been lots of positive stories. I think the challenge is they're not as exciting. They don't look as good. They don't look as fun. And I think people see that and like, well, maybe they're not quite as good because they don't dazzle you the same way. They grind you in a different way. And grinding can be tiring, but it can be effective.
It can be. And just really quick, I want to jump off your point about Tavares and the season that he's having. Like, playing the way that he is and under Craig Berube, it seems like a really good fit. Like, how much longer do you think he's able to keep up this level of play? Like, last year we were thinking, this guy might have to go down to 3C, maybe move him out to the wing. But he's excelling right now with Berube. Can he do that moving forward? Like, we talk about bringing this guy back on a contract potentially. Well, how much longer can he be an effective player at this level?
AB this year, they tried Nylander again at camp at 2C, right?
True.
That was because they wanted Tavares to go to 3. So, it's something on the docket. But I think, and you make a very good point, and Craig Berube's offense has gone from the Sheldon Keefe rush-based offense, which Tavares clearly excelled at, but skating is not his strongest suit. What is his strong suit? Strength, edges, hands, heavy stick. And that is way more effective, relatively speaking, in a cycle-based offense. And so, I think the fact that Craig Berube, I've talked to Craig Berube about this, and he's, not quite making the Ryan O'Reilly comparison, but, Ryan O'Reilly was amazing for Berube in St. Louis. And, could John Tavares, similar kind of skater? Ryan O'Reilly's not a good skater. Could he fill that kind of role as the team matures and, goes hopefully deep in the playoffs? Yeah, I'm not expecting 80 points next year, but of course I wasn't expecting it this year, so he can prove me wrong again. But, if he signs 3 years and $15 million and he gets 70, 60, 55, like, for $5 million, that is more than adequate for what you'd be asking from him. And I think that's quite reasonable that he'd be able to do that.
Well, MJ, we were just talking about, the motive.
Leafs facing center crisis amid injuries, eyeing trade market for solutions. As the Toronto Maple Leafs battle through a growing injury list and a suspension, their lack of depth at the center position has become a glaring issue. According to Sportsnet's Elliot Friedman in his latest 32 Thoughts article, the Leafs are among the teams exploring trade options to bolster their lineup. This effort is coming amid increasing competition from teams like the Chicago Blackhawks and Nashville Predators, who have also set their sights on improving their center depth. Friedman didn't mince words about the Leafs' predicament. The teams currently focusing on centers, including Chicago and Nashville, must consider when others will enter the market. Toronto will undoubtedly be one of those teams, he wrote. While the Blackhawks and Predators may have an edge in terms of cap space and assets, the Leafs remain a team to watch as the season progresses. The Leafs situation is urgent, with up to 7 forwards currently unavailable due to injury or suspension. Ryan Reeves is serving a 5-game suspension, while key players like Auston Matthews, upper body, Matthew Knies, upper body, Kaje Jarnkrok, groin/sports hernia, David Kampf, lower body, Max Domi, lower body, and Max Pacioretty, lower body, are all sidelined. The team has even considered temporarily shifting Mitch Marner to the center position, highlighting the severity of their depth issues. This isn't just a short-term concern for the Leafs. Depth at center has been a persistent challenge for the team, and while stopgap solutions like Marner could help in the interim, the front office appears keen to explore longer-term fixes. For fans of the blue and white, this has been a recurring theme. The Leafs' center depth often becomes a problem at the worst possible times. James Myrtle of The Athletic recently added more fuel to the speculation, naming several potential trade targets who could help the Leafs address their issues. Among them is Ryan O'Reilly, a familiar name for Toronto fans. O'Reilly, who signed a 4-year, $18 million deal with Nashville in 2023, might be a trade candidate if the Predators' underwhelming start to the season, 6-11-3, 31st in the league, prompts a rebuild. However, his steep price tag and history with the Leafs, including rejecting a free agency offer less than 2 years ago, make this a complex and potentially unlikely move. Other names mentioned by Myrtle include former Leaf Nazem Kadri, currently with Calgary, as well as players like Michael Granlund, Nick Jugstad, Brock Nelson, Yanni Gourde, Trent Frederick, Radek Faksa, and Sean Kuraly. While some of these options seem more plausible than others, it's clear that general manager Brad Treliving will need to get creative to find the right piece without mortgaging the team's future. Cap space remains one of the biggest obstacles for the Leafs. Unlike teams like Chicago and Nashville, which have more flexibility and assets, Toronto is walking a financial tightrope. As Friedman noted, competition will intensify as cap-constrained teams strive to create room. For the Leafs, that could mean waiting for the market to develop further, a risky move given their current needs. The situation also highlights the Leafs' ongoing struggle to build a roster that can withstand the grueling nature of an NHL season. Injuries are an inevitability in hockey, but Toronto's current predicament underscores the importance of depth, a quality the team has struggled to consistently maintain. Looking back on recent years, the Leafs have often leaned heavily on their star players, particularly Matthews, Marner, and William Nylander. While these players have delivered in spades, the lack of reliable depth options has left the team vulnerable in critical moments. The current crisis at center is merely the latest example of this recurring issue. Some fans have called for more aggressive moves from Treliving, arguing that now is the time to strike while the team's core is in its prime. Others, however, are more cautious, pointing to the dangers of overpaying for short-term fixes. Striking the right balance will be key, especially as the Leafs aim to keep their championship window open. Despite the challenges, there's no denying that Toronto has the talent to be a contender, provided they can patch up their lineup. The ongoing rumors and speculation surrounding potential trades show that the Leafs are at least exploring every avenue to strengthen their roster. For fans of the blue and white, this moment feels like a pivotal point in the season. With a lineup ravaged by injuries and a tough schedule ahead, the Leafs must act decisively to avoid falling behind in the standings. The addition of a dependable center could be the difference between weathering the storm or watching another season slip away. Whether it's O'Reilly, Kadri, or another surprise name, one thing is certain: the Leafs are under pressure to deliver. And for a fan base as passionate and loyal as Toronto's, there's no room for excuses. The time to act is now, and Leafs Nation is watching closely. As the trade deadline approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher. Will Treliving pull off a move that solidifies the Leafs' status as a contender, or will the search for center depth become yet another chapter in the team's long history of what-ifs? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure: it's never boring in Leafs land. As the Maple Leafs navigate this critical juncture, their fan base remains as vocal as ever. Toronto is a city that breathes hockey, and the pressure on Brad Treliving to make the right moves is immense. Every decision he makes, or doesn't make, will be scrutinized, from talk radio to social media, where Leafs Nation is already debating the merits of the various names being floated as potential trade targets. Among the louder debates is whether the team should prioritize a high-profile acquisition like Ryan O'Reilly or Nazem Kadri, or focus on a lower-cost, reliable center who can fill a supporting role without costing too many future assets. While O'Reilly's leadership and playoff experience make him an attractive option, his contract and recent history with the Leafs add layers of complexity to any potential reunion. Similarly, Kadri's gritty, two-way playstyle remains a fan favorite, but his cap hit and availability might render him an unrealistic target. Another factor complicating the Leafs situation is their tight salary cap. While Chicago and Nashville can make moves with relative ease due to their financial flexibility, Toronto must navigate a labyrinth of constraints to make any trade work. This likely means including salary retention or moving existing contracts to make room, which could drive up the cost of any potential deal. The question then becomes, how much are the Leafs willing to sacrifice to address their immediate needs? One potential trade partner generating buzz is the Seattle Kraken. Yanni Gourde, a dependable two-way center, has been mentioned as a possible target. Gourde's versatility and championship pedigree from his time with Tampa Bay make him an appealing option. Seattle, however, is in playoff contention and may not be inclined to part with a key piece unless the Leafs can provide a substantial return. Another intriguing name is Brock Nelson of the New York Islanders. Nelson is a consistent scorer and reliable faceoff man, qualities that would undoubtedly bolster Toronto's center depth. However, the Islanders are notoriously cautious when it comes to trades, and prying Nelson away would likely require a significant package, including picks or prospects that the Leafs may be hesitant to part with. For all the trade talk, some analysts believe the solution might come from within. Sheldon Keefe has shown a willingness to experiment with his lineup, and players like Pontus Holmberg or Fraser Minten could be given an opportunity to step up. While relying on less experienced players carries risks, it might be the Leafs' only option if the trade market proves too costly or slow to develop. Adding to the Leafs' urgency is the timing. The Atlantic Division remains one of the toughest in the league, with teams like Boston, Florida, and Tampa Bay continuing to dominate. Any prolonged slump could see Toronto slip further down the standings, putting their playoff hopes in jeopardy. For a team with Stanley Cup aspirations, failing to address their weaknesses could have catastrophic consequences. Brad Treliving's history as a general manager suggests he's not afraid to make bold moves. His time with the Calgary Flames was marked by blockbuster trades, including the acquisition of Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar in the Matthew Tkachuk deal. Leafs fans hope he brings that same decisiveness to Toronto, especially as the trade deadline looms. Beyond the immediate need for a center, this situation underscores a broader issue with the Leafs roster construction. Depth has been a perennial concern, and while Toronto boasts some of the league's top-end talent, their reliance on a handful of stars has left them vulnerable in moments like this. Moving forward, addressing this imbalance must be a priority for the front office if the team is to achieve sustained success. As the Leafs head into a critical stretch of the season, the next few weeks could define their trajectory.